Hello, and welcome to this special one-year anniversary episode of Engaging Austin, a weekly podcast sponsored by the Hitchingham Group, a local nonprofit management consulting company. I'm your host, Kelsey Hitchingham, and each week I interview leaders in Austin's nonprofit and civic engagement organizations to discuss community needs and solutions in one of the fastest growing cities in the country. Thank you for listening. My guests this week on this anniversary panel are Kyle Kerrigan from episode 4 and Pooja Sethi, who joined us in episode 17. Kyle Kerrigan is an endurance athlete and coach and professionally serves as a social enterprise leader. He currently serves as Director of Data and Analytics at Upbringing, a Texas-based nonprofit focusing on child well-being. Kyle races ultramarathons in Texas and Colorado and wherever else the trails take him. Throughout her career, Pooja Sethi has advocated and spoken out for others. She brings a voice of equality, innovative thinking, and passion to the Austin community. As a mother, attorney, local business owner, and a nonprofit founder fighting for survivors of abuse and assault and their children, she exemplifies these values every day. Sethi serves on city committees and task forces to champion the rights of first responders, advocate for education for all, and supports environmental initiatives because she strongly believes in Austin that is safe, healthy, and green for everyone. Pooja and Kyle, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, this is a real treat. I'm excited to connect you two and to chat a little bit. So Kyle and I he was the 4th episode ever and graciously was like, in the beta testing of whether or not this was actually going to be a thing. And I think we recorded, like you said, Kyle, almost a year ago to the day today.
Yeah, I checked the calendar. It was February 4th, and it was an important day because after I got to share the episode with family members and even my now fiance, the number of people that texted back and said, "I never knew what you did," was well over more than I can count on 2 hands. So I owe you a big thank you for even inviting me on. This is only my 2nd podcast, and this is my home, the Hitchingham Group.
Yes, excellent. And Pooja and I spoke in June of 2020 while she was in the middle of her run for District 10 City Council, which unfortunately you lost, but we still have Ellison Alter, so that's fantastic. And as a District 10 resident, it was really exciting to see how that race really panned out. So Pooja, what have you been up to since then?
My practice. So I've, with my clients and everything, and just getting back into being able to serve my clients, but under a new administration, an amazing administration that is creating policies every day that just takes a little bit of fear out of it. So I am really excited to be able to spend the next, at minimum, 2 years and 4 years to really push immigration as much as possible under better policies, because we have dealt with a lot of trauma in the past 4 years, and it's time to erase some of that. So that's what I've been up to.
Great. Excellent. So one of the things Kyle and I talked about was nonprofit innovation, and this idea of how this is something that, I think I've been fleshing out in subsequent conversations of, ways that we can sort of flip the script when we look at nonprofits, right? Kyle, have you guys been building on that in the last year? Are there any sort of significant, milestones that you'd like to share?
Yeah, in the last year, a big focus for people in our industry has been scenario planning. And basically, I think a lot of folks that walk in our circles of helping to address child abuse, and as a reminder to your audience, our mission at Upbring is to break the cycle of child abuse. And we do that by providing services like foster care and adoption. But what a lot of folks in our industry were concerned about really since March and the pandemic beginning was, wow, no schools, which are typically where we identify abuse first. We expected rates of kids going into care to go down, meaning there's possibly abuse happening that we're not identifying. Mm-hmm. And like we thought, numbers went down significantly, upwards of over 10%. And one of the things we've been trying to do is help build in some capacity to actually project what we think is going to happen. So really basic machine learning models, really basic, and what I think some folks in corporate world like in Apple or Google would say is really entry level artificial intelligence. For us, it's really game changing because a lot of folks in our industry maybe don't have access to the tools, don't have the people, or overall are just so focused on the day to day. So a lot of the last year for us on the innovation side has been trying to anticipate what fluctuations we're going to see in the populations we're serving.
And do you mean like after effectively like the pandemic ends, sort of like when the gates open back up in terms of children being placed back into foster care, that kind of thing?
That and just what we think is going to happen this year with kids coming into care, because in our world, every day matters for a child in care. It matters every day for our financial outlook. That's the reality is foster parents receive payments for every day they provide care to a child, as they should. And we want more foster parents to be within that system. You know, kinship care is where families care for the children that are in foster care, and the Annie Casey Foundation estimates there's about 253,000 kids in informal kinship care, meaning they're not getting those benefits that are right there in front of them, compared to 11,000 or so that we know are in the system. And so part of it is figuring out and helping those folks identify resources that are at the state level available to them. And some of the projections I mentioned specifically, we want to anticipate, you know, if we're not seeing abuse rise in some areas or we're seeing it decrease in others, we want to be able to ask, why is that? And so it's being able to county level to be able to drill down and say, hey, where do we think our services are going to be needed? If it's not Houston, is it Lubbock? You know, so we definitely have a statewide perspective on that.
And Pooja, you serve a similar clientele with your nonprofit, correct? Dealing with victims of coming out of abuse. Are you seeing sort of similar trends? I mean, I think that the tracking tends to be the same, but if, you know, not having children be able to talk about abuse, are you seeing anything with the adults that are experiencing that?
Yes. I mean, so I also volunteered on the Survive to Thrive, the call system that they had set in place once we went into quarantine. And it was amazing to see the increase in calls, or not amazing, because I think for certain people in the space, it wasn't as surprising. But we also realized that when we're home more, right, and when we don't have those friendship circles to go out and speak to, or people or neighbors to go run to when we face abuse, it tends to go up and it tends to rise. And also there's a lot of anxiety that happened around the pandemic and, you know, a year ago that were, and people losing jobs. And so there's just such a rise in domestic violence cases. My nonprofit focuses on immigrant women who face domestic violence. And a big reason why I started that was because I realized that a lot of the women were not leaving their husbands because they were scared of not having visa access. They were scared of getting deported and getting pushed back home to their home countries and having to leave their United States citizens' children behind, which was very, very scary for them. So I know a lot of women who were staying in these situations just so that they could stay in the house with their children and not have to leave their child with their abusive partner. So that was really scary. I remember sitting in my office one time and one woman sat across from me and she said that, I'll die. She said, I could die in that house, but I'm not leaving my child and I'm not going to get deported. And it is really, really difficult to get some people out of their situation. So my nonprofit is not just about providing pro bono legal services, but it's about helping find housing, helping find transportation, helping navigate the school system. A lot of judges in Texas are not that welcoming towards immigrant women who are facing abuse in the system. I've had some clients where judges have said, well, you're going to get deported anyway. So we don't care about the abuse. We're automatically going to give full custody to the abuser. And so those are some really scary things. And that's why a lot of people even facing domestic violence are scared to even call the police, because they're scared if their abuser ends up in jail, how are they going to How are they going to have income? How are they going to raise the child? What are they going to do? Are they going to lose their visa if their abuser goes to jail and then ends up divorcing them? So there's just so many things and so many nuances that we have to look at when we are helping. So when we help our clients on, in the immigration nonprofit, it goes beyond the legal aspect. It just goes, all around, but it's also providing a support system. And we are fortunate in Austin to have so many great nonprofits that help children and women, and working with those nonprofits or having them refer clients to me, where we can all work together and hopefully get people out of their situations.
Mm-hmm. And so with this new administration, are you seeing, you said that there's policy at this point, we're 2-3 weeks in, right? And there's policy being enacted every day. Are you hopeful that there will be sort of a significant sea change that will sort of change the circumstances under which these women are living in fear?
The policies are amazing. Biden put in the moratorium for 100 days to stop deportation while he reviewed policies, and we were so excited by that. And of course, we live in Texas, and then our attorney general went and put out, something to get that overturned and put a stop to that. So, it's funny because I was telling someone the other day, I said, it's like we can never get it completely straight. So it's great that we have a federal government, who's doing these things, but then we also have these Texas lawmakers, right, who are trying to overturn some stuff that the federal government is doing. So while I am so excited and grateful that the federal government is overturning with all these executive orders immigration and really looking into reform and really figuring out how we can help people and turning back so many of these horrible executive orders that frankly made no sense. I mean, the policy that Trump had put into place to have people wait on the other side of the Mexican border while they're waiting for their asylum case just led to so many deaths and assaults on people while they were waiting, and people were scared for their lives, and it made no sense. So watching Biden overturn all these things and, really creating a task force to reunite children with their families. I mean, this stuff is stuff that we really need to put in place. It's humanity, right? It's humane policies, but now we're looking at Texas and locally here in our state, and yeah, they're trying to stop it. I mean, I'm looking at the Texas Ledge now, and there's actually a bill up where they are trying to stop undocumented people from undocumented students who have lived here and graduated from high school from being able to get in-state tuition when they go to Texas state colleges, which is horrible because I have a lot of clients that would only be able to go to these colleges because of the in-state tuition. So, it's blocking education. So I'm really happy and excited and about the federal government and our new administration, but we still have a lot of work to do on immigration. But it's nice to at least be on the winning side sometimes with some of these things.
It feels nice, doesn't it? It's a strange feeling. It's been like, wait, this has been a couple of years before, I turned on NPR and wasn't just like,
It's also nice to be able to practice and not get my policy off of a Twitter account. And now I get to do it off of real executive orders and real live policies that are put into place. So it's nice to actually use my legal degree again and not have to do it through Twitter. So.
Kyle, does Upbring, did the policies that you guys work with, are you influenced a lot by what happens at the federal level, or are you mostly dealing with sort of like state and local regulations?
Wow, great question. Not a lot of people know this. We actually serve unaccompanied minors that cross the border without somebody that's 18 or older. And we've been doing that. I mean, just let's be real, before it got really politicized, we've been doing it for 16 years or so. And it's been, it was up until 2 years ago, a program where we saw consistently high numbers. I cannot provide specifics on the number to protect the children's identification, but the numbers plummeted the last couple of years, and it was a lot due to policy. And for us, what happens when the unaccompanied minors come across, there's a lot of different processes that are federally regulated that were put in place well before the previous administration. But what happens after those children are processed, the onus is on us, and where we work with the federal government is in providing then foster care services for those children and helping connect them with the school district. But the first priority is always finding the family. If you came across unaccompanied, is there anybody locally that we can connect you with? Sometimes it's even out of state, but we haven't been making those connections nearly as much. Like I mentioned, the numbers plummeted. We'll see as the next few months come if we will see those centers start to fill up. I don't even know if that's a good thing or bad thing, frankly, but I just know it's been a big change in the last couple of years for us not providing those services. And, you know, I think where all of our imaginations go, I don't have evidence of this. Our imaginations, though, go to, well, then what's happening to those kids? You know, if the numbers are so consistent, okay, they're not there now. Where are they? So that's where, like, there's definitely some heart wrenching for me personally, but I am just like Pooja, watching how these policies affect that specific program, because they are a unique population. We're talking over 90% ESL, and half probably don't even have the family locally. So they're going into foster care, and what we know has already been a traumatic journey north. So yeah, that's all to say. Yeah, there's all types of regulations affecting us for sure.
Yeah. So we have a new city council that was sworn in last month, and we also just started the 87th legislative session here in Texas. Kyle, is there anything in particular that you have your eye on, either at the city level or at the state level, sort of moving forward, either as a, you know, personal passion project or something that affects your work?
Oh, well, you know, we had some good movement on the child welfare front in the 2017 session, a little more movement in the 2019 session. Based on the governor's state of the state on Monday, I don't know if we'll get any more attention this year or not. It's kind of up in the air. I'm following everything, really. I can't really say there's something I'm particularly excited about, because I just haven't seen what I want for our industry yet, which is, you know, personally, I think there's room to increase pay for caseworkers statewide, which we work with. Those are our partners, those folks at DFPS. But locally, I'm paying very close attention to these charter amendments that are proposed for the May ballot. Those are heavy on my mind.
Mm-hmm. Pooja, what about you?
So much. So I'm on the Asian Quality of Life Commission, and I actually chair the policing committee for that. And part of that is, one, educating different communities around what's happening and what the city is doing around policing, because I think there is a lot of misinformation out there about what steps the city has taken in the past and what we are moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
So that is something. And then, of course, what the state is wanting to do around policing, because I think there's a lot of threats that the state is going to take over parts of policing here in Austin. And that is really important to me, especially as an immigration attorney, because I see often that people who are driving with expired driver's licenses or don't have IDs get pulled over in Austin time and time again, and then get put into Travis County Jail, and they get ICE holds put on them, and then they end up in our ICE detention center. So that is something that, you know, locally here in Austin and statewide is something that we really need to advocate for and start pushing for. Again, the education bill that I mentioned, and you know, I don't know a lot about, because I'm so city focused, I don't know a lot about advocating at the ledge, but if anyone wants to join and take part in this or take the lead and help me, I'm happy to bring them on, because, you know, I'm really, there's a lot of policies that they put through the ledge that are anti-immigrant, but they don't say it specifically because immigration is federal. But when they exclude certain groups or need identification on certain bills to get access to certain things, that is pushing the immigrant population out, people who don't have access to these driver's licenses or are able to have access to these ID cards. So there's a lot of different things, but I think right now, well, two things. One, policing, and two, I'm really heavily engaged in the vaccine outreach right now that's going on and trying to figure out, especially for people who can't speak English, how they're going to get access to the vaccine, how they know about where to get it. If you look at a lot of the portals that they're putting out, they're all in English, and a lot of people don't have Wi-Fi. So we've been working really hard with our senior immigrant community to help them get the vaccines. So police and vaccine outreach are honestly at the top of my mind these days.
So and just some light policy.
Just some light policy, and the Save Austin Now petition that wants to put the homeless back in jail that they just got approved by the city clerk. That's also going to be on the May ballot, is at the top of my mind because.
Oh, yeah, I didn't know that was approved yet.
It was approved yesterday.
Oh, wow. Well, I gotta say, Pooja, I love hearing you say that you're more focused on City Hall and locally. Like, that's a maxim I've preached for years, especially in my former role at the Austin Young Chamber. It was, we got to look at City Hall, guys. So it's awesome to hear somebody else having that much more energy focused towards it too. And yeah, that's refreshing.
Well, I think in the past 4 years, we had so little control over the administration that I felt like if we go in our bubble locally, at least we can change policy around here, and then hopefully at least create some good policies here, even if the federal government is not. So I also want people to stay focused locally and stay focused on the state, because I think that there is going to be some apathy. Rightfully, I think we all deserve a break after the last 4 years, but I do think that we do have to keep our eyes open, right? Just because we have a president or a vice president that we believe in doesn't mean that locally and in our state there aren't things that we can advocate for and push for. So I agree.
I guess, you reminded me too in mentioning Wi-Fi access in the governor's state of the state. Him putting rural broadband as an emergency item did make me very happy, because there's a local group here that's advocated for that for a number of years. I got to imagine their work helped fuel this, but I really think it was the pandemic that pushed that over the edge, and just elevating, hey, listen, there are so many communities that really lack access to all the dialogues that we're having, all the services we're providing virtually, so I'm very excited about that. I should have mentioned that earlier, Kelsey.
No, I think that's fantastic. And so much of this is our conversations that I've been hearing all over the place. And I apologize. When I was looking at my notes, we did an interview with Warren Berkeley, who works at Austin Justice Coalition. Bree Jenkins and I are doing a podcast with people about the 87th Ledge. And he was talking about, they're obviously Austin Justice Coalition, very focused on criminal justice and what's going on at the state level for that. But the bill, the HB 830 bill that's named after Sandra Bland, is sort of focusing on what you were talking about, Pooja, which is eliminating these micro misdemeanor offenses that get people pulled over, right? I mean, she was pulled over for a taillight and ultimately ended up murdered in a jail cell. And so by removing that as an offense to get people pulled over, we're ultimately saving lives by not getting them into detention or not putting them in a position where they're vulnerable to, ICE holds or something like that. So I was looking for the specific bill because we don't have a fact checker at Engaging Austin, but I'm trying my best. But yeah, and even thinking, the conversations that I've heard about the vaccines, I heard it put on NPR the other day that, when access to a vaccine is a race between a 25-year-old with a computer and an 85-year-old with a computer, it's cruel. The 85-year-olds aren't going to win at all. And so, and even if they have access to a computer, I mean, a lot of them don't. So the rollout obviously has been leaving a lot to be desired in terms of, reaching the people that who need it. And I heard a statistic the other day that the majority of people who have, more than 50% of the people who have received vaccines so far are white women over the age of 50. So our Karens in the community are doing just fine. And, I think it's really time that we need to pull back and figure out the best way to bring everybody else in.
I agree. I think it's 5% of the Black community nationwide has been vaccinated, 6% of the Asian population, and I think 11% of the Hispanic population has been vaccinated thus far. So yes, we have a lot of work to do.
Yeah, absolutely. So Kyle, you had brought up the sort of the slate of proposals, the policies that are being put forth on the Austin ballot in May. We've got strong mayor coming up. We've got the democracy dollars, $25 per person to go towards a political campaign. And we've got moving the mayoral election to a presidential year to increase turnout. I'm interested in sort of your thoughts, anything that you've heard so far, any, bits of education that you think would be good to share with people, knowing that, we're not experts and this isn't the topic, but it is definitely top of mind, I think, right now.
Yeah. One of the first things I first heard about these measures, I think in December of this past year. I have a hard time with some of them because I worry about them making the position, making it a divisive focal point in our community because and aligning it with presidential years and then making it really an even more coveted position if it has more power. I'm concerned about it being a potential source of further division in Austin, but we'll see. I still got to do more research on them. I worry about, I like that in Texas, we don't have Democrat and Republican labels on our local officials. And I know they're implied a lot of times, but
we know who they are.
Yeah, no, we do, but I think it does help to not have those. And I'm kind of concerned about things becoming more divisive from it.
Pooja, what are your thoughts?
Honestly, I haven't made up my mind yet how I'm going to vote because I don't think that there has been as much information out there as we need. I know that there was an AT Accelerator Facebook Live recently, which I think
Yeah, it was good.
Congratulations, Kelsey. Yeah, so I think that they did a Facebook Live recently. Yes, I watched a little bit and then had to go to work, but I'll finish it. But I did point a lot of people to that because I think that was one of the big ones that came out. And I know some of the Democratic groups have been doing Facebook Lives around it, but I would love to see more information around it. I mean, obviously there's pros and cons, right? I mean, the democracy dollars sound great, where people who don't have access to donors, donor finances, and we know that not everyone has access, will be able to give to the candidate that they want. I was originally very excited about moving the mayoral election to the presidential election. And then when I talked to a campaign strategist, they said, well, that just means that the mayor would have to have 3 times the amount of money during the presidential year in order to run, just to get, their name out there. So are we just, again, pushing forward someone who is very privileged, or are we really doing, or are we focused on having more voters during that election? So I think there are a lot of questions back and forth. I think there's some people that I admire, respect on both sides of the coin, which is why I haven't made up my mind yet, because I think that there are good arguments to be had. But I would love to see, and maybe this is something that you could do, Kelsey, but I would love to see podcasts or something where we really get to delve into it and figure out what the best choices are, because I think that there's good arguments to be made on both sides.
Yeah, definitely. It's something that I'm interested in doing on the show. I will say, though, that AJ Bingham, who runs the Bingham Group, which is a public policy organization here in town, has a podcast, and he has interviewed both some of the leaders from Austinites for Progressive Reform, I think is the name of it, who have pushed this forward, and also opponents of this. And then in fall of last year, when there were just inklings of this, he interviewed a former state legislator who's now an LBJ professor, whose name escapes me. And she gave like sort of a really good overview of what this looks like and how it works in lots of other cities. Because it's sort of it's not an anomaly in Texas for us to have the council manager situation set up. My words are
Yep.
failing me that we have now. Houston has strong mayor, but I think it's the only city in Texas that doesn't. But really, east of the Mississippi, it's been strong mayor. My boyfriend's from Buffalo, and Pooja, New York, right? And he's like, I always thought every city was supposed to be strong mayor, essentially. But the way that I've heard it laid out, kind of to your point, Kyle, of is this going to be a little bit more divisive, and is this just going to put some more privileged people in the mayoral seat and effectively veto the voice of the council? The way that they've got it laid out is no, because the council itself will have power to counteract what the mayor does, and what it is doing more than anything is making democracy more transparent across the board, so everyone is elected, and it's not then that the manager is an unelected position, but that the person holding that power is now accountable to the voters and to the citizens as well, which I thought was a really good, I'm still waffling, I think, back and forth between my support of it, but I have not heard strong opposition to it, other than why are we talking about this now, and what we're doing works, and hearing, a good argument of why it is they put this forward was fairly compelling on that podcast. So it's the BG podcast, and I'll post the links to it. But yeah, I think that, as we move forward towards the May ballot, this is going to, be top of mind for a lot of Austinites.
Well, my understanding too is that some of this was triggered by what happened around police reform this summer, right? And so we are in a situation where we have people at the city that we cannot actually fire, but we can only demote.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that this is also an answer to try to figure out, as we have these conversations as to what's best for Austin, figure out how to move forward. So I do think these are important conversations to have now. I think that our city is in a state of where we're going to go, and we are hitting over, or we've already hit over 1 million at this point. So we're not a small city anymore. So I think these conversations are important. You're right, Kelsey. When I moved to Austin, I have to say I was pretty surprised because I worked in New York for a good 8 years before, and I'm from Houston. So when I came here, I was pretty surprised to see the model. Not to say, it hasn't been bad, but it was just surprising, because I think when you think mayor, right, you always think that's a person who runs a city. So
yeah, when I moved down here from Indianapolis, I was refreshed to not have the strong mayor form of government. We had what's called Unigov, where the county and the city are all ran by the same governing body in Indianapolis, and it's a strong mayor government. And the situation is one where if the mayor doesn't like it, it's not happening. And one of the things I think, I am listening to the AC Accelerator broadcast on Wednesday, both sides agree it's a much more attractive position in a strong mayor government. And I think right now in our current system, you have a mayor and a city manager that there's a certain class of people that will never put their hat in the ring for those positions. And as soon as you put in the strong mayor, that same class goes, well, that's great. I'm jumping in now. So that's where my concern originates from, but we are a very large city to not have it. I don't know what that says about us, but something about me has always appreciated how this town is a little different. So I am curious. I'm waffling back and forth like both of you, but the hard part is there's four of these amendments. And, I like some parts of each one and I dislike some parts of each one. And it's like, there are these four separate decisions. Do they work together? Do they not work if not all of them work? That's why I'm kind of going, do I want the strong mayor, but not the presidential election year? And it's a lot at once for sure. And I keep thinking back, man, can't we wait till 2024 with 10 years of 10-1? But I don't know.
Well, I think council does have the choice to put it on the November 2022 ballot, right? So it may
they do.
That's what I saw last time. I don't know if that's gone through or not. So, I know you don't have a fact checker, so everyone go Google themselves. But that was last what I heard, is that council gets to make that decision whether it goes on the November 2022 ballot. So
that's interesting.
Yeah, and one of the provisions of this is that the plan is to add another district to Austin. So it will go from 10-1 to 11-1. And so the redistricting that comes with the census that we just completed in 2010. I mean, so there's kind of, I think the question of why now is answered when we start thinking about, we have to redistrict. When is the next presidential election? When do we need to get this passed? And when do we need to draw the boundaries by in order for somebody to be able to run both for, this 11th district and then also put their hat in the ring for mayor at that point. So I think working backwards, it makes sense to me. But kind of, Kyle, to your point about, we're not even 10 years into 10-1. I mean, it was 2014 was the first election for 10-1. Prior to that, it was a mayor and 6 at-large seats with 2 gentlemen's agreement to have, a Black and a Hispanic council person. And so to think that in this amount of time, it's funny to me how Austin was this sleepy little town for so long with really the access to democracy, and that at the city level was really cut off, And so I would think that just increasing the access to democracy really increases the equity that we have, hopefully, at the city council level. I don't know.
Yeah.
I also heard that there is an opportunity, maybe if they do create an 11th district, to make it an Asian opportunity district, because we, frankly, my community has not had, or our community has not had representation on that dais since 2010. And it's only been one person who's been able to represent, Jennifer Kim. So I think that if we can figure out ways to have, like you said, Kelsey, more equity up there, more representation. I don't know how we do that, but I am all for us as a city figuring out how to get more representation up there that represents all the different demographics that we have.
Maybe another city council run in your future, Pooja?
We'll see. I'm just too happy about Biden and Kamala right now.
Kyle, do you have any future political aspirations that you would like to announce on Engaging Austin?
No, just that I've completely written it all off. I had 90% of it written off before 2020, and I wrote off the last 10% somewhere around April. So no, very much. It was a long-term goal of mine, though. To be honest, I would have loved to see myself in Pooja's seat and have that experience. Maybe it'll happen someday. And yeah, I've kind of, more of my aspirations are kind of focused in what I'm hardwired for, which is athletics and working towards some goals to be on a podium. That's really something that I tried to deny for a long time and do on the side, live 2 lives. And I just gotta, I think, embrace that side fully.
That's exciting. So we're sort of nearing the end of our time. Pooja, any big plans for 2021 now that we can all kind of take a deep breath? Anything sort of personal or professional that you're looking forward to this year?
Getting the vaccine, hopefully able to travel. I would love to see ACL open back up. I don't know if it's going to happen this year, but it was kind of a sad thing. We've gone pretty much every year since it's started. So it would have been as a family. So no, honestly, like I said, I think we all have a lot of healing and rest and relaxation to do. I was trying to get my nephew a PS5 yesterday because it's really hard to get. And I text my sister because we've been trying to get it for him for months. And I text my sister and I said, I feel like quite literally my entire 2021 has been hitting the refresh button, either on the vaccine or the PS5. So I think that's just my 2021 is just hitting refresh and seeing like where we go from here and hopefully getting back to some normalcy at some point.
Yeah. Kyle, what about you? How many ultra marathons are you planning on running in 2021?
Well, I got 5 races on the calendar right now, including that one that'll take me to Phoenix next weekend that I mentioned to you. Other than that, I got engaged this past year, and it was very exciting. I'm thrilled about it. But we set a date for April 29th, 2022.
Okay.
And so a lot of the year will be, I think, spent with that in the back of my mind and while I'm running all those miles.
Are you guys getting married in Austin, or are you planning on going someplace else?
We're here. We're getting married here, and it's a place called Pecan Springs Ranch out. I'm motioning like that matters. Out towards Dripping Springs.
Cool. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Does ultra marathon sound way more ambitious than hitting refresh? I will co-sign onto his ultra marathon. I will not do it. I will co-sign on to Kyle doing that.
All supporters welcome. And I will say this to anyone. I am more than willing to help anyone if they want to accomplish a goal of racing one of these. I fully believe anyone can do it, and I've seen anyone do it in person. You would not believe the heart that every one of us has. So that's what I'll leave you with.
I'm so inspired by that. I've got big ambitions, and the second something hurts, I'm like, no, I'm done. It's not worth it. I don't want to do it. Maybe one of these days, Kyle, I'll hit you up.
One step at a time.
Great. Well, Pooja or Kyle, is there anything else that you would like to add? Is there, any shout outs that you want to make?
Happy 1 year anniversary.
Thank you.
I love listening to the podcast. I think it's great.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah. Happy 1 year anniversary. And I didn't get to ask you, Kelsey, what about you? You're 2021.
Oh my God. I don't know if you can see the whiteboard behind me, but that's just the first 8 weeks of the year. Podcast. So we announced the Engaging Austin book club earlier this week. And so I've launched a book club. The first book that we're reading for February is The Color of Law. And so if you go to engagingaustinpodcast.com/book club, you can sign up. It's free. And if you want to buy the book, I've got an affiliate link through Bookshop. So it's really just a way to kind of have a parallel learning opportunity to take a deeper look into some of the issues that we're talking about. Like The Color of Law focuses on how federally subsidized public housing really ingrained segregation into American cities. And I mean, Austin was part of it. The Rosewood projects down on Chacon and 12th Street are, one of the first housing projects, and it effectively cemented segregation in Austin. I mean, a lot of other things did too, like cough 1928, but so the book club is a big thing, just continuing with the podcast and lots of stuff with work. And, I just want everybody to love nonprofits as much as I do, but also understand that, the real reason that we do this work is because the systems that were built in America are systems built on inequality. And the only way that we're going to be able to actually do the work instead of address the symptoms is by getting down into these real issues of inequality. So also just some light goals for the year. No big deal.
Well, you got two other lovers of nonprofits here on the phone with you.
Right. Well, I am so happy that you guys joined me today, and thank you so much for being guests and for, doing what you do in Austin and for, supporting the show and in your communities too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cool. And thank you for listening to Engaging Austin. I'm Kelsey Hitchingham. Please be sure to rate, review, and subscribe. You can find more information about our guests at engagingaustinpodcast.com. Engaging Austin is recorded and edited at my house in Central Austin. Stay safe, friends, stay engaged, and wear a mask.